Hey guys, so this year for Halloween I'm gonna be Krieg from Borderlands 2. So I figured I'd do you guys a little bit of a favor, show you how I'm making the Buzz-Axe. Now before we start the building, I have to warn you guys, it's not gonna be an exact replica, but hear me out. When I was 15, I made Edward Scissorhands hands, and I wore them to a Halloween costume contest, and I won the costume contest. And then the next year I was Jack Sparrow, which is a surprisingly intricate costume, and then I won that costume contest. And then the next year I didn't go to a costume contest, but I made a Bane mask for one of my friends, and he ended up winning the costume contest that he went to. So I'm not just saying this stuff to brag. What I'm saying is none of those things were exact replicas, but they look darn good. So this is not going to be an exact replica, but it's going to look darn good. And also, it's not a functional weapon. That would be freaking dumb to take an actual functioning deadly Buzz-Axe to a Halloween party. No. No. So, yeah, not a weapon, not a replica. It's just a really, really cool costume prop. So, let's get to the building. Alright, here's what I'm going to be using for the handle for Krieg's axe. It's about an inch of some kind of wood that I kind of forgot what the name of it was. And then here's for the upper part that kind of encloses the saw blade. It's 1/2 inch poplar board. I don't know if that's how you say it, but whatever. Step 1, grab your Sharpie and draw out the shape of the handle that you want. Since I'm going to be doing Krieg's axe, he's got that funny like S-shaped handle as opposed to the regular Psycho's axe that's pretty straight, but it's got a lot more details in the handle. So the handle should be pretty easy, but once you get to the top of it and you start getting into all the fancy stuff, that's going to be pretty tough. Alright, it took a few tries, but I got the basic shape of what I want. It really doesn't matter because once you clean it up, it's going to look a lot better than it does when it's just drawn on with Sharpie. So now I just got to cut this out with a jigsaw and then I'll start shaping it. Alright, I just finished the rough cut. Now I'm just going to take a knife, round down the edges, maybe sand it a little bit with some sandpaper. I don't want to refine it too much because I want to give it that really handmade, crude look that I would expect any psycho to have when he makes an axe out of a big pile of garbage. So I was hacking away with a box cutter and my uncle swoops in and gives me one of these things, so that should make my job about 1 billion times easier. So it's nice and rounded, really comfortable to hold, and my table is a complete mess. There's just a little bit more work with some sandpaper, and then I should be able to move on to the next step. Dang it, I made it completely beautiful on accident. Life's hard sometimes, guys. You just gotta keep on keeping on. I gotta clean this place up. This is stressing me out. Now I'm trying to use as little metal on this as possible because I don't want people thinking I'm running around with an actually deadly weapon. But for certain jobs I do need a little bit, so I'm gonna be using some 16 gauge steel for the part that connects the saw blade enclosure to the handle. So I got the shape drawn out. Now I'm gonna cut it out with an angle grinder and then figure out some way to attach it to this. Alright, now I'm going to clean this up with the grinding wheel instead of the cutoff wheel on my grinder, and then what I'm going to do is take it, and then I'm going to put it right back on here, trace it again, and make a second one. So I've decided to go with nuts, bolts, and lock washers to attach the brackets to the handle. So what I'm going to do is stack this on top here, clamp it all together, and then drill the holes into it so that the holes are identical on both of the brackets. Okay, here's the brackets with the holes drilled in them. Now before we start putting stuff together, let's make all the pieces first. Here's the outline for the saw blade enclosure. I'm just going to cut this out with a jigsaw, and then after that, then I'm probably going to make the saw blade. I got the 2 rough cuts done. Now I'm going to clamp them in the vise side by side like this, and then start shaping them so that they're identical to each other. Alright, we got the 2 mirrored pieces. Now we're going to get to work on the saw blade. Alright, I'm doing the maxed out version of Krieg's axe, so instead of just a saw blade, it's a saw blade with actual blades riveted all around it. So all I did was take a pre-existing saw blade, lay it down, and trace all around it, and also make sure you trace on the inside too so that you can get the dead center. So when you hook up the motor to it, it doesn't just vibrate like crazy. And now I'm going to cut this out with a jigsaw, big surprise. If I had a regular saw blade, I would have just traced the teeth, except I only have these weird ones, so I just made a dot at the bottom of each of these little dip things, and then one at the center of each of these lengths of teeth. So I guess I'm just gonna have to figure out how to freestyle some kind of formation of teeth out of that. It might be ugly, but you know, it's not supposed to be pretty. Here's what I came up with. Pretty good, I think. 12 teeth. I think I got it centered pretty good. Now let's just cut these out. It actually came out awesome. I'm super happy with this. Now I just have to make the blades that come off of it. Now in Borderlands, the axe has 9 blades coming off of it, but for the sake of balancing it properly, I'm just going to do 8, and then you can go cry about it. And look, if you guys are afraid that you can't make the perfect cut the first time, I mean, chances are you probably can't, so don't be afraid to use paper and a Sharpie and draw your stuff out before you cut it, and then once you've got the right shape, then you can just put it down on your wood that you're actually going to be cutting and just trace it out and then make the real cut. Case in point, I've been trying to get the blades right for the last like 30 minutes and I just got them right, and that would have been heck to go through if I was cutting them out of wood each and every single time. So yeah, don't be afraid to use paper. There's no shame in it. So now I just gotta trace out and cut out, what did I say, 8 of these? Yeah, that should be fun. Or should I say tedious and boring. Quick tip when making really tedious cuts like this, do your best to snuggle up all the pieces as close together as possible and line up all the longest lines together. It'll save you a lot of tears, time, and frustration. This next part is not a quick tip, it is quick tip pending so far. But what I'm going to try doing is, instead of cutting out 8 blades individually, I'm going to double up on the layers and just cut out 4, and after that I'll tell you how it goes. It worked pretty much perfectly. Quick tip approved. So here's the motor that I'm going to be using. I got it out of a really crappy airsoft gun from Walmart, but it actually came with the perfect gear bit for what I'm doing. The way I'm going to do it is just take this, put it into here, hot glue it, and then this just goes directly into there, and you got a perfect thing. I used a spade bit to drill this little pit for the motor to rest in. Now let's paint all this stuff up so I can finally start putting it together so it looks like something. So I got the saw blade and the blades painted up and looking at least vaguely metallic, so now begins the long process of attaching all the blades to the saw blade. I'm going to be using actual rivets to do it. Never used rivets on just wood, so I'll let you know how that goes. It's looking pretty good if I do say so myself. Well, not the back. The back looks like crap, but I'm probably going to cover up all these little imperfections with some acrylic war paint. That's the cool thing about if you're doing a thing like this for Halloween. If someone doesn't actually have a picture of the character you're recreating, like there with them, like scrutinizing you with it, no one's gonna notice if you make little tiny changes and detail like that. No one's gonna be like, wow, that little black spiral on the back is quite inaccurate to the actual game. And if they are, then they're a big loser and their opinion doesn't really matter anyway. So now I'm gonna get to work on drilling all the holes for the rivets and finally start putting stuff together. I think the first thing that I'm gonna do is get the motor into the little pit, and I gotta get it aligned perfectly, otherwise the saw blade's gonna catch on stuff when it's trying to spin, so I gotta be super careful about that. Oh, and all the other stuff that doesn't really matter, like the dynamite sticks and the butane tank, and I'm probably gonna do some little detail paintings on it too. So here's how it's looking so far with all the pieces put together. I had to put a little bend in the bracket here to give the blade a little more room to spin, and I had to put a spacer in there too, but it's not really that aesthetically displeasing, so I'm not even going to worry about it. The only thing that's left is the handguard, the little metal thing on the bottom right here, and the dynamite sticks and the butane tank, and I'm probably just going to do some little detail paintings on it too. I'm going to be cutting the handguard and that bottom part out of some 22 gauge steel and then bending it into shape by putting it in the vise and probably hitting it with a hammer. This is a little bit rusty, I guess, but you know, like I always say. Here are the shapes that I'm going to be tracing onto the steel and then cutting out. This thong looking thing is the handguard. This is that metal piece on the bottom. Both of these things I'm just pretty much going to be, once they're cut out in steel, bending them around just the handle in their according spots, and then bolting them in probably. So here it is with the hand guard. I just took this shape that I showed you before, cut it out in steel, bent it that way, put it on there, drilled through it, and dropped the bolt through it. This little piece of metal right here, that's not even really anything. It's just like a little strip with some holes in it, and then just bolted that on to make it look a little cooler. And then this shape went down here, bent it, put it on like that, and then put another one of those strips around the back, drilled through it, dropped the bolt through it. Super simple. And we are actually really close to being done. The only things that are left are the dynamite sticks, the little propane tank, the detail painting, and the wiring to attach the motor to a battery and to a switch. So I'm gonna do the detail stuff first to make sure that it doesn't interfere with any of the wiring if I were to do the wiring first. So we're gonna start with the dynamite. All we're gonna do is cut some lengths of PVC, paint it red, and then tape it on. We're not taping it on because we're lazy, we're taping it on because that's how it's attached on there in the game. So thank you, Krieg, for giving us a break on that one. Here's the PVC before painting and after painting. And I'm making the little propane tank that sits on the back of it out of an empty spray paint can. And be really careful when you're opening these things up. A good way to do it is to wedge it up against something. I just used like the tire of a car that was outside and just wedged it up against there until all the gas was out. Then I flipped it over and used a can opener to open up the bottom of it so there's no more pressure inside. So now you can cut it pretty safely. So it's a little bit too long to attach onto the back right there, so I'm gonna cut it about in half, and then I'm gonna hand paint it probably with acrylic paint. Here it is with the primer base coat, and then with the yellow acrylic. I just realized that we are in fact going to have to do a little bit of the wiring before we can put all the nice decorations on. So what we're gonna do is take the wire, pass it through the cap of the dynamite, pull it through so that there's a length of the wire that is about the same length as the dynamite, and then you're going to just tie a knot, tighten it really quick, and then pull it through. See, now it won't fall out because you tied that knot. So then we're going to solder these two connection points to the wires, and then from there we're going to hot glue or just tape. I don't know, I might do both. We're going to attach it somehow to the motor right here. So the motor is actually going to be disguised as the base of the stick of dynamite. We got all the dynamite and the propane tank on. Now I'm going to start on all the wiring. I kind of started a little bit with the switch. I got this switch out of a DVD player. I'm trying to get this whole thing to run on a 9-volt battery, so I took a 9-volt that was already dead and I just ripped off the top of it. And I'm going to attach it somewhere. I haven't figured out where, but you'll just be able to hook another 9-volt into it and it should be able to run the motor pretty well. It's not a very big motor. Here it is with all the wiring completed and the big cartoon outlines painted on it. Here is where the 9-volt battery is going to attach once I actually get one that is not dead. But since that would be totally lame for me to show you this whole build and then show you the finished product without even showing its spin, just because I don't have a battery, I took this remote controlled car charger thing. It's like 8.5 volts, and I just attached the end piece of a 9-volt battery, so it should simulate a 9-volt battery pretty well. There you have it. You just push the little green button. Spins. So there it is. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I enjoyed making it, but listen, I know you guys hear this 1,000 times a day, so much so that you probably don't even hear it anymore when you actually do hear it. But listen guys, I need you to please share the video, okay? And share my channel even, if you feel like it. These kinds of videos, these tutorials and stuff, I really want to keep on making them, but I can't unless I have the money to make them, because these materials aren't always free. And I can't make more money if I don't have more viewers. So please, help me out guys, okay? I'm asking nicely. So I'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching. Bye.